Welcome back to Make It Mondays, and this week I'm doing something slightly different. I am working from an existing pattern, and that pattern is from World War II. So I will be making a scarf. The pattern says muffler, but current terminology would say scarf, and I'm making it in navy gray. And it is a World War II pattern that was written by the Red Cross for civilians to send to soldiers during World War II. Now I'm going to be making some changes to the pattern to account for how I knit, my gauge, and a little bit of history along the way. So let me get everything flipped around and I'll show you how it gets started. So the pattern I'm working from says to do knit 2, purl 2 for 2 inches, which for their gauge is 13 rows. But it was an odd number of ribs, so the wrong side row is going to be purling 2, knitting 2 across, ending with a purl 2. Again, this is going to go on for 13 rows. I did add 2 additional stitches, not to make the ribbing easier, but because I really don't like not having the slipped stitch on the start of, or on each end of the row. So it just makes a cleaner edge as far as I'm concerned. Again, not in the original pattern, but that is the first modification that I'm making. The second one is the fact that I am not 6 feet tall. The pattern was written for soldiers who, in general, would be 6 feet tall. So instead of making it the number of rows for instead of making it 72 inches long, I'm going to be making it closer to 56 inches. It's not going to be exact, but it will be close. So again, just working knit 2, purl 2 all the way across. I do have stitch markers going. That's partially because I didn't want to count my cast on, so they are every 10 stitches. But they will also be getting used as I'm going up the length of the scarf. So I will be back a little bit later to show more of the body of the scarf. So I've done the first 13 rows, which is in fact about 2 inches, even in my gauge. And now it's time to do the next step, which says to knit. I'm actually choosing to start with the purl row. I'm assuming that by knit they mean stockinette stitch. That would be one of the more common things to put with a 2x2 rib. But older patterns are wonderfully vague, and that's not actually an issue. It was not assumed that patterns would be written for beginners up until my lifetime. And especially ones like this, which are written for a specific chapter of an organization, because it says use your chapter's colors or put your chapter's label on it. So we do know that these are not beginners. These are people who want to help out with the war effort, had a skill, and chose to help out in this way. So I am going to just purl across. I'm going to knit the last stitch so that my edging stays the same all the way through. And then it's going to be knit on the other side. And this is going to continue for quite a while. The pattern says to go for 68 inches. I will repeat, I am not 6 foot tall. This scarf is for me. So I'm not making it quite that long. I'm going to make it closer to 5'6", probably even a bit shorter than that. but I do have something special for the middle. So I'm going to go 65 rows in stockinette stitch, and then move on to what I'm doing that's a little bit extra. So be back in a bit to show you what's going on. So here's the first part of the pattern for this scarf. I am on the wrong side, so I'm going to be knitting it rather than purling it. That is going to depend on which row I'm on. So it might change depending on which line of pattern I'm on. So I've gone 23 stitches in. I'm going to knit one, purl one, knit 3, purl 1, and then repeat that a couple times. Now this, for people who are attuned to a different flavor of nerd or geek, might look slightly familiar, because this is in fact Morse code. I'm going to double check that I've got it right. 1, dit, da, dit, da, dit. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to double check from the front just to make sure that I'm completely correct. So the story is that this was done in wartime. I heard of it as a World War II story, where people, specifically spies, would incorporate Morse code into fiber arts, so scarves, shawls, hats, and get them across enemy lines that way to send messages. I have gone looking for those stories for this video. I couldn't find any that were written that way, but I did find a story of a woman, now woman, girl at the time, who was given a Medal of Honor for using her hairband to hide codes, again, across enemy lines. But so if each stitch is a dot and the 3 stitches are dashes, which is the ratio for International Morse code, that is the code for stop. So that's the end of a sentence, or in this case, the end of the entire message. So I'm going to be working up like this all the way up. It did take me a couple hours to get the entire code written up on my computer. But I will check back in when it is substantially closer to being done. I will leave a link to the different websites that I was able to find stories on. But one of the things that I found was that the original version of that story, so not the one who got the Medal of Honor, it actually came from fiction. So we have been using fiber arts to move messages, but not necessarily in this fashion. But I will leave those linked in the description below. So I will be back in a bit to show you how this is looking, probably about halfway up the scarf. So here I am about halfway through, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of purl bumps. So all of this is the Morse code. So I started at the bottom, worked my way towards the top. I am, again, just around halfway now. This line reads stop, so that is the end of a sentence. And then it keeps going. And from this line all the way to the bottom is in fact one sentence. So I'm going to keep going until I get all the way to the top, and I will show you how it looks when it's all done. So here is the finished scarf. I'm not going to show quite all of the Morse code. And it's actually been a while since I finished it, and I'm kind of glad that it is, because I found out only like a week ago that while this version of doing Morse code probably didn't exist, again, can't say definitively, I just haven't found sources, doing it in cross stitch did exist. And I've now seen a cross stitch sampler of Morse code incorporated into the border. So it's still a really fun story, and it's a really fun project. This entire saying can be found in its Morse code version, so auditory Morse code, in Disneyland if you want to go listen to it. But other than that, if you've made it this far, please remember to like and subscribe, and happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service if you served. Have a wonderful day.